I wish to stop.
June 6, 1941. A date which will be remembered for generations to come. This was the day that the largest amphibious invasion in human history took place. Operation Overlord, or more famously known as D-Day. By June 1940, France had fallen to the Nazis and Adolf Hitler was gloating over it as the most famous victory in history. With more than 300,000 British troops evacuating from the beaches of Dunkirk, in a famous speech, the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill vowed to liberate France from Nazi Germany. A little over a year later, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union on June 22, 1941. 6 months after that, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and the United States joined the Allies. A huge turning point came in the most deadliest battle in human history. The Battle of Stalingrad. The Soviet Union suffered 1,500,000 casualties, while the Germans suffered 1 million casualties. Joseph Stalin obviously wanted Britain and United States to contribute more into the war in Europe. Two preliminary proposals were drawn up, Operation Sledgehammer, and Operation Roundup. Operation Roundup was adopted. It would be delayed due to the Allied invasion of French North Africa in November of 1942. I actually did a video on the African front, and the Italian front, so you should go watch it after this video. In December 1943, at the Tehran Conference, Roosevelt and Stalin combined against Churchill to insist on launching the invasion across the English Channel within the next year. In January 1944, American General Dwight D. Eisenhower was appointed Supreme Allied Commander to lead an invasion by the code name, Operation Overlord. In the months leading up to the invasion, the Allies conducted Operation Bodyguard. Hitler knew that an Allied invasion was coming on France's northern coast. He appointed Erwin Rommel to spearhead defense operations in the region. He would finish a 2,400-mile fortification of bunkers, land mines, as well as beach and water obstacles. By June 5, 1944, Rommel had been able to have some 4 million more mines laid on the beach. To ensure the success of the D-Day landings, the Allies executed Operation Fortitude, a massive deception campaign designed to convince the German High Command that the main invasion would occur at Pas-de-Calais. They created a ghost army, consisting of inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, and fake radio chatter to simulate a massive force stationed directly across from the narrowest part of the English Channel. The strategy relied heavily on double-cross agents, spies. The Germans believed they were loyal, but who were actually feeding them carefully crafted misinformation about Allied troop movements. Hitler had believed this trick, and believed the main invasion would be at the Pas-de-Calais, rather than Normandy. Between April 1 and June 5, over 11,000 aircraft were deployed, 200,000 sorties were launched, and 195,000 tons of bombs were dropped on French rail centers and road networks. This succeeded from isolating the invasion area from the rest of France. By early June, the presence of USA troops in Britain reached more than 2 million Americans. 250,000 Canadians were also shipped to the UK, as they were also going to participate in this invasion. Millions of tons of supplies were shipped for America to the staging area. This included 450,000 tons of ammunition. Captain James Stagg and Irving P. Crick were the two main men put in charge to figure out if the intended date of landing weather would be good. Technicians released weather balloons high into the atmosphere to send back critical data on air pressure, wind, and storm systems. RAF weather aircraft flew routes from Gibraltar to Norway, measuring conditions at low, medium, and high altitudes to understand upper atmosphere circulation and early jet stream. Irving P. Crick predicts a period of calm and urges Supreme Allied Commander, Dwight D. Eisenhower, to launch the invasion on Monday, June 5. Captain James Stagg analyzed the same data and saw that huge aggressive storm system would approach the English Channel. If they went on June 5, this would be catastrophic for the troops. The two got into a heated debate on who was right, although at first, most of everyone sided with Irving P. Crick. In the last final decision for debate, the White and Eisenhower at the end decided to actually side with James Stagg. He was postponed the invasion and it would not take place on June 5. June 5 came, and just like James Stagg predicted, a huge storm came in. If they had went with their original plan, many of the British, American and Canadian forces would have been decimated before they even landed. Then James Stagg noticed a shift of the storms. He identified a crucial 24-hour window of calmer weather behind the front. He told Dwight D. Eisenhower at June 6 was the day to go, and he went with it. And just like James Stagg predicted, it was a calmer day. On the night of June 5, over 1,000 bombers took off and raided coastline defenses, while paratroopers were dropped inland in a bit of a chaotic operation. They were tasked with sabotaging defenses and capturing key bridges to stop any German reinforcement from reaching the beaches. Early the next morning the barrage came. The Allies fired a large number of shells at the German fortifications, and then the landings. By dawn of the planned date, American, British, and Canadian forces simultaneously landed on 5 separate beaches of Normandy, France. The British would land on the beaches of Gold and Sword, the Canadians would land at Juno Beach, the Americans would land at Omaha and Utah Beach. Although the U.S. 4th Infantry Division landed 2,000 yards away from their intended target due to strong coastal currents, Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt Jr. famously decided to push forward from the accidental location rather than trying to reposition. This shift placed the Americans against much weaker German defenses than originally anticipated, allowing them to seize the beach with incredible speed. The success on the sand was heavily supported by the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, who had dropped behind enemy lines hours earlier to capture vital roads through the flooded marshes. While the paratroopers were scattered across the countryside, their presence caused enough chaos to prevent a coordinated German counterattack. Because the naval bombardment had been so precise and the amphibious tanks arrived on time, the infantry faced relatively light resistance compared to the other landing zones. Omaha would be the worst beach of D-Day. The 1st Infantry Division and 29th Infantry Division were the primary assault divisions that landed on Omaha Beach. Due to heavy cloud cover and fear of hitting incoming landing craft, bombers delayed their releases. Most bombs fell miles inland. The German defenses remained entirely intact. The first assault waves hit the beach at low tide. Strong currents pushed landing craft off target, scattering units and breaking tactical cohesion. As the ramps dropped, German forces opened up with devastating machine gun, mortar, and artillery fire from the bluffs. Within minutes, the beach became a gridlocked kill zone. Elite units, like Company A of the 116th, suffered over 90% casualties. There, tons and tons of men that would get out of that ship and step foot on the sand, and that would be the last place they would stand alive. The fighting was so chaotic, and so brutal, that thousands were dying in minutes. With the command structure broken and away with a few tanks to support them, the American forces were forced to organize and act on their own. The first break file is when Sodders of the Easy Company of the 16th Infantry managed to find an unprotected gap between the two enemy strong points. After they reached the bluff, they climbed it and made a lateral attack on the German bunkers. Destroyers then came into a distance of 1,000 yards of the beach. /N and commenced showing the German bunkers. By noon strong points were neutralized, and most of them had run out of ammunition. Allied air power managed to cut off German reinforcement, and the Germans had to surrender. 2 beaches down, 3 to go. Next is Juno. The assault on Juno Beach was a brutal and complex operation that saw the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division face some of the most concentrated German defenses of D-Day. Unlike the other beaches, the Canadian landing was delayed by rough seas and high tides, which hit jagged offshore reefs and element sea steel traps rigged with mines. This caused nearly 30% of the landing craft to be damaged or destroyed before they even reached the shore, forcing many soldiers to jump into deep water under heavy machine gun fire. Because the delay meant the naval bombardment had already ended, German defenders in the towns of Courseulles-sur-Mer and Bernières-sur-Mer were fully manned and ready when the Canadians arrived. The battle quickly turned into a series of fierce, house-to-house urban fights, as the Germans had transformed seaside villas into reinforced concrete pillboxes. Despite some units suffering 50% casualties in the opening minutes, the Canadians displayed incredible resolve, using grenades, bayonets, and swimming tanks to clear the sea walls and push into the streets. By the end of the day, the Canadians had achieved a remarkable feat by advancing further inland than any other Allied force on June 6. They successfully cut the vital Conn Bayou Highway, effectively isolating German reinforcements and securing their sector of the coast. Although the victory cost over 1,000 casualties, the 3rd Canadian Division was the only Allied unit to reach all of its primary D-Day objectives by nightfall. That 3 beaches down, only 2 to go, the assault on Gold Beach was the responsibility of the British 50th Northumbrian Infantry Division, and it served as a vital link between the American sector at Omaha and the Canadian sector at Juno. The primary mission here was to seize the town of Bayou and the small fishing port of Arromanches, which was slated to become the site of a massive artificial harbor known as a Mulberry. Unlike the other beaches, the British faced a unique threat in the form of the Longues-sur-Mer battery, a powerful German artillery position capable of hitting ships far out at sea. The landing began around 7:25, and while the weather was extremely rough, the British had a secret weapon in the Hobart's funny specialized tanks designed to clear mines, bridge gaps, and destroy concrete bunkers. These engineering vehicles proved invaluable because the high tide had pushed the landing craft right up against the German obstacles, forcing the infantry to fight their way through heavy mortar and machine gun fire from fortified seaside houses. One of the most legendary moments of the day occurred when Company Sergeant Major Stanley Hollis single-handedly charged 2 German pillboxes, an act of bravery that earned him the only Victoria Cross awarded on D-Day. Despite the fierce resistance in the village of La Hamel, the British troops pushed inland with remarkable efficiency, clearing German strong points and linking up with the Canadians from Juno Beach by the evening. By nightfall, they had landed nearly 25,000 men and stood on the outskirts of Bayeux, having advanced nearly 7 miles into French territory. 1 beach to go. The British 3rd Infantry Division was tasked with landing here at 7:25, with the ambitious goal of pushing 9 miles inland to capture the city of Caen, a major transportation hub. Because this beach was closest to the concentrated German armored divisions, the British knew they had to move fast before the enemy could organize a response. The British 3rd Infantry Division was tasked with landing here at 7:25, with the ambitious goal of pushing 9 miles inland to capture the city of Caen, a major transportation hub. Because this beach was closest to the concentrated German armored divisions, the British knew they had to move fast before the enemy could organize a response. The initial assault faced heavy fire from German strongpoints hidden in the sand dunes, but the British used specialized engineering tanks to blast through concrete walls and clear minefields. A unique feature of the Sword Beach landing was the arrival of the Free French commandos under Philippe Kiefer, who fought with extra intensity to liberate their own homeland. Another legendary moment occurred when Lord Lovett's scouts marched onto the beach led by Piper Bill Millen, who famously played his bagpipes under heavy fire to boost the soldiers' morale as they moved toward the vital Pegasus Bridge. Sword Beach was the only sector to face a major German armored counterattack on D-Day, when the 21st Panzer Division drove a wedge between Sword and Juno beaches in an attempt to push the Allies back into the sea. However, British anti-tank guns and constant aerial bombardment forced the German tanks to retreat, securing the beachhead. While the British didn't quite capture Caen on the first day, they successfully landed 28,845 men and linked up with the 6th Airborne Division, ensuring the eastern flank of the invasion remained unbroken. The Canadians suffered 1,242 casualties, the British suffered 2,700 casualties, the Americans suffered 6,603 casualties, Australia suffered around 14 casualties for their small contribute to D-Day, and the Germans suffered 4,000 to 9,000 casualties. This allowed the Allies to gradually expand over the ensuing months. On June 12, the key town of Carrington was captured by USA troops, allowing 5 Allied beachheads to be connected for the first time. A week after D-Day, the Allies had landed 327,000 troops, 54,000 vehicles, and 103,000 tons of supplies in Normandy. On June 26, the Allies captured the French port of Cherbourg. A month later, the city of Caen was captured. On August 15 the Allies launched Operation Dragoon, a code name for the landing operation of the Allied invasion of Provence, and liberated most of southern France in just 4 weeks. 10 days later the French capital of Paris was liberated, and just 5 days after that the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division cost the same, as the Germans continued to fall back, marking the close of Operation Overlord. This made a huge turning point in World War II. Today D-Day left a big impact on history. If you ever visit these beaches off the coast of France, remember that they're not just beaches. Thousands of people fought to decide the course of human history on these beaches. The largest amphibious invasion of human history happened on these beach.